Welcome back to our YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for your support. Dr. Ekur Okot has picked another war with President William Samoei Ruto. This time round, Ekur Okot is accusing William Ruto of not protecting Kenyans who are working in private sector to hold top jobs. Okur is saying that we have very top-notch private companies in Kenya, but if you look at the positions, top positions that were held by Kenyans, those positions have now gone to foreigners, and is telling William Ruto to ensure that he protects our citizens. William Ruto had earlier, communicated in his Twitter handle that we are working with the private sector to create an enabling environment for business, trade, and agriculture to thrive. Additionally, the partnership is helping to solve socio-economic challenges in the country. And of course, he was doing this after meeting the CEO of Digo, I think that is the pronunciation, Deborah Crew at State House in Nairobi. Now, when he communicated that, Dr. Ekur Okot sought to remind him of his negligence, not using his powers to protect Kenyan jobs. And he was saying this. Okur said, "Dear President William Ruto, please wacha kutubeba malenge. Is EABL PLC on the path to kick out locals in their country? Let's face the facts. A few years ago, number one, the managing director of KBL was Kenyan. Now we have a Ugandan. Worrying. Number two, the director supply chain was Kenyan. We now have a Dutch. Number three, head of logistics was Kenyan. We now have a Ghanaian. We now have a Ugandan. Number four, the head of procurement was Kenyan. We now have a Ghanaian. I ask you, Mr. President, is there a deliberate move to undermine Kenyans within their own country? How are you creating jobs for Kenyans when foreigners are taking the top jobs? Who are you working for?" Of course, that tweet elicited some amount of deliberation and argument and discussion. There are people who feel that William Ruto cannot interfere in a private company that it does not fall under his purview. But there's another school of thought that feels that if there is a private company that is operating in our soil, that William Ruto should ensure that Kenyans hold some of the top jobs. I don't know your thought on this, but personally, what caught my attention is this. A few months ago, William Ruto appointed Professor Patrick Vikojen, I don't know whether that is the name, a foreigner, to head the University of Nairobi as the chancellor. This elicited, quite a reaction, because people were wondering, don't we have Kenyans who qualify to hold these jobs? So that is why when Dr. Ekur Okot brought to our attention that William Ruto seems not to be using his authority to protect Kenyans in their top jobs, I got alarmed, because he has shown that before, that it feels he does not trust that we have qualified Kenyans that can hold top-notch jobs. William Ruto is a man who is fairly learned. He's a doctor. He went to school in Eldoret, did his university just within the country. He never went abroad. And so I believe that he trusts the institutions in the country. Number two, William Ruto has been looking for jobs for hustlers. He goes to United Arab Emirates to negotiate for domestic jobs. He went and told us that he negotiated for jobs with the Google company. Of course, that backfired. Recently, there was another company that blocked Kenyans. The reason he gives for forcing Kenyans with the housing levy is because he wants to create jobs for hustlers. And one would wonder, on the other hand, on one hand, you are creating jobs for your countrymen. But on the other hand, you don't protect the job that they have. You see, I don't understand the policy or the reason why all these Kenyans have lost their positions to foreigners. I don't know whether it is on qualification or what, but I believe that we have qualified men and women who can take those jobs. I personally believe that if there is a company, a private company in our country, then we should be given priorities. We are not saying, that is my personal opinion, we are not saying that we can block foreigners from working in our countries. Otherwise, they will maybe decide to go to other countries. But I think there should be a policy that we are also given a chance to hold those top jobs. That is why I'm saying that Okur Okot is somehow right. It is also happening against the backdrop of accusations of William Ruto listening too much to the Western countries, foreigners, and allowing their culture like LGBTQ. I don't want to mention because I have talked about this almost in every video. We listen so much to the Brentwood institutions like IMF. They tell us what to do. And William Ruto is obsessed so much about trying to please the foreign masters. Whatever they say must happen to us. So all this combined together, one would feel like William Ruto is failing somehow. And I don't know what to think. This is just my personal opinion. It's also happening at a time when William Ruto declared a visa-free border so that foreigners can come in at any time. Have a discussion with the Kenyans. They will tell you that we have an influx of foreigners walking helter-skelter. The other time there was a big debate that we have foreigners who kill our ladies in the Airbnbs. And I know that if I open that Pandora's box, people will say that, our ladies must respect themselves. They should not trust, all these men from the foreign countries that they love for money. I understand that. But the discussion is, if the foreigners were not in the country, had they not been in the country, we wouldn't have had this kind of cases. So there's a lot that surrounds Ruto's involvement and dalliance with the other countries. If you ask me, I repeat, we should have a policy so that some of these lots are also left to Kenyans. Because if what Okur Okot is saying is true, then this is alarming. These are three top positions: MD, the director, supply chain, head of logistics, head of procurement. I can assure you that we are losing a lot, because when we lose such position to foreigners, this man or woman or lady who was working in this position most probably has left and maybe is jobless or something. All the head that he was feeding, the influence that he would have on such companies is now gone. We are struggling. William Ruto knows very well that the rate of unemployment is high. We've seen some of our investors running away from the country. We should protect the very little that we have and try as much as we can to protect the Kenyan jobs that we have. Or does it mean that William Ruto only believes that those menial jobs, those small jobs can be done by Kenyans, but when it comes to those top-notch, then Kenyans cannot? I don't know what to think. Please help me with your opinion on this, ladies and gentlemen.